Welcome back, friends, loved ones, family, whoever you might be listening to Justice League Revisited, the unofficial companion podcast of Justice League, the animated series, as not said by James Gunn, who I think knows because he liked a couple of our tweets, but he hasn't actually reached out. I'm a little hurt. Joining me on the other side of the Zoom screen, you can hear her infectious laughter, the voice of Wonder Woman, Susan Eisenberg. Hello again.
Hi. Well, and, you know, I do hear the laughter when I listen to our episodes. My laugh is so loud, so I apologize to all the people listening. But I think you're very funny. And you make me hardy har har. You make me laugh out loud. And so it's your fault. I'm going to put it back on you. But hi, good to see you. I feel like we haven't seen each other in a while. And I'm excited for today's show because I happen to love this episode. I think it's brilliant. And I so enjoyed watching it. Hadn't seen it in forever. And I love that it's got like anyone who's anyone in it. Like we're all there. And then you've got all these guest stars. So that was pretty great.
Yeah, you can't pick up a DC Comics Who's Who from the 1980s without going, oh, that guy's in this episode. Oh, that guy's in this episode. It's amazing. Yeah. So for those of you listening, we are covering Secret Society, which is the 21st story overall. It's episodes 43 and 44 since the launch of the series, and episodes 17 and 18 in season 2. It was released very close to when we're actually releasing this, November 22nd, 2003, written by Stan Berkowitz, directed by Dan Reba, with an amazing cast, which we will get into as we progress through our coverage of this episode. But first, let's welcome our special guest joining us direct from Los Angeles, California, sunny Burbank. We've got James Gavsie coming to us, host of the fantastic Who Would Win podcast, among 1,000 other things he does. James,
1,000.
1,000. James, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. Quick correction for those who are familiar with Los Angeles. Burbank, although a fun place, is one of the hardest places to get to from the west side of Los Angeles. If someone said, hey, would you rather go to Burbank or drive to Las Vegas? I'd probably pick Las Vegas as a less stressful, driving journey overall. With that being said, I am so thrilled to be here. You're fantastic. Love everything you do. Susan Eisenberg, Wonder Woman herself. I have watched all the episodes many, many times. My kids are now into it. And when I told them, hey, I'm going to be on this show, they went absolutely crazy. We rewatched Secret Society, and they were all picking out these points. Oh, don't forget to mention this and check out this. And I'm like, I already got it. I understand. So my whole family is geeking out, really nerding out about this. I couldn't be more excited.
I need your kids watching it with me so they can give me pointers. Because I'm always out geeked in these episodes, in these hour-long shows that we have, because we have wonderful guests like you who know this universe so intimately and have, been a fan forever. And then we have obviously my co-host, James Enstall, who is, the geek to end all geeks. And so it's I need your kids to help me navigate these shows. But this one was just a gift. I mean, I have to say, loved it. Did you love it as much as I did? Revisiting it, what were your thoughts when you watched it again?
Okay, so here's the deal. For all those people who know me, I am a Kevin Conroy fanatic. Mm-hmm. Love him as an actor. As a kid, I first got to see him in that show called Tour of Duty, which mm-hmm. was, the show about this platoon of soldiers. He was the captain in Vietnam, and he was so amazing. I remember seeing him and hearing him, and I was a little kid at the time going like, that's who I want to be. I want to look like that guy. I want to sound like that guy. So anything that showcases Kevin Conroy as Batman, my whole family, my whole circle of friends, everyone I work with knows that I'm just into that 100%. And he got showcased beautifully, or Batman got showcased beautifully.
Yes.
The other character who really stood out in this two-parter was Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman and my kids, what we pointed out was Wonder Woman was the true badass, the true person who kind of really saved the day, even though Green Lantern was doing his thing, kind of took center stage. Superman was questionable, a couple of things. Batman was there, awkward, the whole thing. But it was Wonder Woman who kicked the most ass in this episode. And my kids were like, don't forget to mention that.
That's so
and I'm
sweet.
Like, I will not.
And we're used to getting our asses kicked. I mean, we do get our asses kicked a lot in this episode. There's so much ADR, additional dialogue recording in this. I know that we all spent at least a half hour to an hour each in that studio doing those kicks and falls and oofs and ooh. It was so physical, and I agree. I loved Batman in this episode. He had such great one-liners. The best being, "Oh wait, I did," at the end of the first episode, which was so dramatic, and how it ends with them appearing. I mean, it was so brilliant, so cinematic. And it was such a treat to see everybody together because, as has been explained to us in the past from some of the other guests, they couldn't have everybody on all the time. It just wasn't feasible to do that. And you can't create a universe with all these characters every single week. But when they do, I mean, it's magical, I think, to have all these characters together, even when they're not getting along.
I was wondering
even when
about
it's
that.
Hawkgirl's fault. But anyway, that's another episode.
No, I was curious about, with the cast being so large, because you've got all 7 of you, which, as we've discussed on previous episodes, is rarity. Usually there's like 5 of you. Plus, you've got 7 supervillains, plus everyone else. So was the studio you were designed in, did it have 14 separate booths? Did you guys have to double up at all?
Oh, no. We were all in the same booth together. Okay. They were these massive rooms.
Wow, okay.
And so we were on one side, obviously, of the glass, and the other side was, would be Stan or Dan or, obviously Bruce Timm, obviously Andrea Romano, obviously the engineer. But the room where we were recording, the rooms, they were huge. So you could accommodate 14 people. And we would all be in there. You'd walk in and there would be, the engineer would put you in a chair. Or if you wanted to stand, but you still had a chair in between your lines, you could sit. And, there you were. And you're looking across at Jennifer Hale or, Maria or, whomever. And it's just the best way in the world to record these episodes. I think it's probably something that happens less and less and less frequently these days, if ever. But boy, were we lucky, and we all knew we were lucky while we were doing it. And there's just such a gratitude about having been able to do it that way, because it's a gift. It's like we're on the stage all together, feeding off each other.
I don't think I ever asked you, Susan, are you a stander or a sitter in the booth?
So I typically would stand just because it would help with the physicality and everything like that. Sometimes in a video game, I will sit because it's such a long session and just to give my back a break. And so I will sit but when I'm in a room with other people and there's all this interaction, I like to stand. And obviously standing is better for the vocals. Sure. But once in a while, you just got to take a seat and enjoy the ride. So that's my thing. Mostly everyone stood when they were recording.
I got to voice direct a few times, and I love just the performances. But to your point, Susan, there's something really magical about having everyone in the same physical location, as opposed to doing what we have to do often, the Zoom call where we capture audio separately and what have you, and it still comes out absolutely fantastic. Sure. But I love being there. I love seeing everyone. I love seeing the physicality. And as the once in a while director, I love giving a note like, "Hey, what I want you to do is punch the air 5 times before you say what you're about to say." Just to really, and all of a sudden, and then everyone else feeds off of it. I really do prefer. I know logistics are hard. Getting everyone in the same room. Getting everyone in the same state these days, I mean, a lot of people have fled. I'm on a cross-country journey myself these days. So, not everyone's in LA anymore. And it's really hard to do it. But like you said, there's nothing like having all that energy and being able to feed off of it. And to have the memories of being in those rooms with Kevin and George and Michael and Phil and Maria and Carl, I hold those close to this day. I mean, and I will forever. So, not to mention
all these wonderful, extraordinary, talented guest stars.
I just posted the picture because just last week it was the 23rd anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got that picture that has, Justice League with the 7 of you, and then the 7 of you in the studio with the Warner Brothers logo. And it's so cool to see all of you and just think, wow, I wonder if you ever knew what you all were starting when you gathered together for that photo, and just it's just incredible to think about.
No, you couldn't have known, right? But you did know there was a lot of publicity for the show. Like, we had a lot of photo shoots for it. I wish I had all those photos. I mean, I think Phil Lamar has a few, and like that one of the 7 of us standing there, that's Phil's. Phil has that. But, there was a lot of publicity. There was a lot of hoopla. Could we have ever imagined? None of us imagined. I mean, but also most of us didn't even know Bruce Timm. Most of us didn't even know the gift this show was when we got it. We all know it now. But, a lot of, for those of us who didn't grow up with animated series and knowing the Timmverse and knowing Batman, the animated series and all of that, this was like a job, and it was a great job, and it was like wow, I get to voice a Wonder Woman job, but no one knew that you were going to be reading words and lines from Dwayne McDuffie, and that Dan Reba was going to be directing you. We didn't know a lot of us didn't know who those people were. And
something I wanted you to know, Susan, is that, I've been lucky enough to work with some really cool people within the stunt industry. And when they create their action design, the pre-business or what have you, I would say at least 95% of the people I've worked with or just come encounter with within the stunt community, we always kind of go back somehow to Justice League. Mm-hmm. We always come back and say, and the reason I'm saying that is because every fight, if you look at any John Wick movie or Shang-Chi or what have you, every fight scene has its own story. The story has to tell something in the greater narrative. It can't just be, here's some action. Because at page 10, there should be some action. It's none of that. That doesn't exist anymore. People can trace it all the way back. And we bring up, remember this in Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, and when this happened, because that told this aspect of the story. That is now part of the ongoing discussion stunt teams have and stunt coordinators have with their teams, and it can be traced back, a lot of it to the influence of Justice League. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
I'm sure like X-Men was there too. There's other great animated series that did, but Justice League really kind of made people stood up and understand, like, this has to have a point, not just in itself, but in the greater story, so that people come back and they have to rewatch that fight scene to understand the dialogue of what happened earlier.
Wow, that's great. I love hearing that. That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, and like you said, storytelling. I mean, I don't think we're sitting here talking about this show if it weren't for the storytelling. I think I've said this so many times, the actors, we were just lucky to just gel with one another. And I think that felt so special. And of course, Andrea Romano put us all together in a room, as well as Bruce Timm. So it wasn't just happenstance. I mean, they created this ensemble. But the storytelling, I think, is why we're still here talking about it.
Yeah. Both
I'm sorry. I just want to kind of bring up something too. What Justice League and then Justice League Unlimited did so well, and of course, Batman the Animated Series and even Superman the Animated Series. What this did so well, just from a storytelling perspective, it created ongoing discussions and the what if scenarios, and people started saying, "Well, wait, that happened. So what does that mean in the greater story or the greater universe? Or when Batman said this, why did Wonder Woman do that?" And what I'm feeling is missing a lot from a lot of modern day animation. Not all of it, but some is or even regular live action stuff. You see the stuff and you see the series, and then you're like, okay, done, moving on. And the great fun of Justice League, especially Secret Society, are all of well, wait a minute, Clayface was divided in all these different canisters. How did he get there? What does that even mean? Because there's a gap. And I remember when this came out in 2003, I started talking to my friends about it. I'm like, well, what does this all mean? And the dialogue and the fun we had discussing what could this possibly mean was just as much fun as watching it in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. Speaking of this episode, James Enstall, when you were revisiting it, what were some of the standouts for you? What jumped out at you?
I liked, obviously, we all know Batman animated series launched this. There would be no Justice League without the success of Batman the animated series, and how, Kevin Conroy kind of came into this being a solo act, and then all of a sudden he's with an ensemble cast, which is very Batman. If you read the comic books, he originally wanted no part of the Justice League, helped out when he could. But the fact that we did get Clayface back, and there was the harkening back to some of the other stuff. The cast was incredible. I want to mention the cast. We had the late, great Powers Booth as Grodd. Gosh, what an incredible talent. Jennifer Hale as Giganta and Killer Frost. Ted Levine. I just got done watching, not Dexter, Monk. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy who voiced Sinestro. And we've got Ron Perlman, obviously, as Clayface, Brian George as Parasite, and Stephen McHattie comes back as the Shade, which I feel like I always wanted them to do a little bit more with Shade because it's such an interesting character. And we got a little bit of that when we saw Stargirl on the CW DC universe. They did a great job with the Shade, which is a very interesting, fascinating character. But I like the fact that this episode gave each character, it's a huge ensemble cast, but you got a very solid feel very quickly for each character. They all had their moment. They all had their time to shine. And I think that's the writing of Stan Berkowitz and the direction of Dan Reba on this one, which hat tip to both of them for doing the story as they did.
Yeah, it was a brilliant story, I got to say. And I think that I was so struck by how the heroes in this are somewhat on the defensive, because they're not thinking up these plots of evil. Like, they don't have evil minds. So they're not sitting there contemplating or hatching this evil plan, but they have to defend against evil all the time. And watching them as they were floundering with, their relationships and trying to work out the dynamics. There was something so human in this story, even though we're dealing with Clayface and Green Lantern. It just felt very human. It was this, these characters just trying to persevere in the face of their own demons and the face of these other demons, these outside demons. And I just thought it was a brilliant storytelling. And I thought it was realized so beautifully by Dan Reba.
Yeah, I have written down Killer Frost doing the trust fall with Giganta. Those little human moments like that. We've all been in a corporate something or other and had to do trust falls or some kind of stuff like that. And it's just like, I love that little moment, even with the villains when they're doing stuff like that. It was great.
Well, I to name drop a little bit, I'm friendly with Dan Slott, and I remember him telling me that they would have these retreats at Marvel where they would all go away, and they were like very profound experiences. This group of people would go away for a weekend, and they would have these retreats, and it just reminded me of that, because, not to bring up Marvel. Sorry, folks.
That's
but
okay.
How dare you?
But I know, how dare I? But no, it really is. It reminded me of that. These little exercises people do to bring back that camaraderie that they've lost. And I just thought this episode, with all the superhero-ness of it all, was just very real and human. And I was touched by that. That was just so well done in the script.
I felt this episode provided a great lesson on how to negotiate. And the Justice League and Green Lantern was trying to negotiate in a weird way to get everyone together and do it. But he wasn't tapping into the motivations of why people were there. Whereas Gorilla Grodd knew exactly the motivations to tap into for everyone within the secret society, and knew how to just say, you're going to get exactly what you want. By the way, it's not evil. It's, you want this, you want X, you want Y. I'm going to get you all of that, and we're all going to do it together. I felt the team building dynamic on the secret society was fantastic, until it all fell apart at the end. But until that point, that was a masterclass on how to bring a team together, negotiate, and get people kind of united against something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I really agree. And I got to say, Grodd, that character is so brilliantly voiced by Powers. He brings so much to that character. It reminds me of when we hear Mark Hamill. And doing the Joker is one thing, But when he does
Grundy.
Grundy, who broke my heart last. It's so well done when there's so much nuance brought to these characters, because they could be so one note. And Grodd is he's so smart and he's so calculating and he's so dangerous because of, I was just blown away by that performance. I remember Powers being in the booth, pun intended, with me because he was such a presence. I believe in this episode, he sat right next to me. And, you just felt like, holy cow, Batman, this is really special. You just knew, you just felt like it gave me chills. And I would often say that in the sessions. I was like, oh my God, I just got chills because you're sitting next to people who can bring so much. I'm
going to say something very unpopular, but I think everyone would agree. And I don't care who says, I know I'm right. If Gorilla Grodd showed up at your door and said, hey, look, I know what you want. I'm going to help you get it. By the way, I'll also benefit this way. I think we'd all consider it without his mind manipulation, without his telepathy. I mean, if he was like, look, I know how to get exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
James, just come work with me. I get it, the whole evil thing. But look, put that aside. We know we can work well together. I'm going to get something. You'll get something. I guarantee you 95% of us are going to be like, I'm in.
Yeah.
One doesn't usually argue with a 900-pound gorilla, though, either. It's one of those things that's like, sure. I'll do that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I did go to a tough Hebrew school, so I'm close to having those experiences. But yeah,
oh, that's funny.
There was the other thing I loved about this one, that it ends up in Gotham Stadium, which between this and if you saw Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, who would go to a football game or an event like that in Gotham City at any point would be fools, because there's always something wrong when there's a large mass gathering in Gotham. But I love
that's a good point.
One of my
that's a good point.
favorite moments, I got chills every time, is when they're getting ready. The good guys are getting ready, the bad guys, and it just zooms in through all of them at that little kid in the stand. Get him. Oh,
yep.
That line gets me every time.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, it is. And but before we even get to that, can I just say it was one of the first times in this episode that I got how huge Giganta is. In the first episode, when you see her just arching, with Wonder Woman being an Amazon, I never really get the sense that she's an Amazon. Sometimes, like, do you? Because she never seems that tall to me.
Right, taller than Hawk Girl or anyone else or anything like that.
Yeah, like maybe by an inch or two, but not like an Amazon.
Right.
So it was really great seeing Giganta be gigantic. Anyone with me on this?
No, yeah.
Anyone?
I'm with you 100%. What's really interesting to me is, like, I've worked with, I get to work with cinematographers, and I have no idea how they do what they do, but when they dumb it down and talk really slow and explain to me how things work, I'm like, wow, now I get it.
Right.
And the cool thing about, like, Batman and Superman, they're 6'2" and 6'3", and the fact that Wonder Woman is kind of like the same height as them, you just think, oh yeah, she's just average height, but no, actually she's 6'1" or so. And just because you never saw it, you never looked up from a downward angle looking up to understand how tall and warrior-esque Wonder Woman was. So yes, I agree with you. I love that whole thing of just, not only is Giganta huge, but she took out Superman, and everyone's running for their lives. And who did it take to finally put, Giganta down with a great, punch? It was Wonder Woman.
Well, I'll do it. Yeah, she'll do it. She'll do it. She has no problem with that. I mean, peaceful, sweet, compassionate Diana kicking ass. Like, this is, she's so much for talking things through. No, It's like, we're really just going to go right at it. So that was, And also, can we just mention Phil Lamar and Maria Canals-Barrera? It just, in these sweet moments of building that relationship. So well done. I love their scenes. They do so much with those scenes together. And I loved Jean. I loved Carl when he's saying, I left my family once and I can do it again. Like, I've been alone, you brought me in, and now I have, and it's just like, he's so good. He's so good. And like, right?
You know what else was really good, to bring it back to Wonder Woman, because that's what I do. It's Wonder Woman took out like not just Giganta, but the Parasite.
Yeah.
After the
Yes.
Parasite was devastating Superman and doing horrible things to everyone else, it was Wonder Woman who just used her lasso and just like, you're out, you're done.
Right.
And that I love so much, because Superman with the compassion, Batman's like, I'll take action, but again, I'm not superhuman. So
he's a limit. He's limited. He's limited. Let's just say it. He's limited.
Okay, you're saying what we're all thinking. And and then Wonder Woman's just like, hold my beer. Let me just take care of this.
Yeah,
that was the beautiful. That's why Wonder Woman's always one of my favorites. And no, in short form, because of your amazing voice talent too, but just the way she would kick ass. And that's what Wonder Woman has to be. Is this? I hate to say it, it's the voice of reason when there's no reason left. Right.
Right.
Hey, here's the reasonable thing to do. I'm knocking her out. See you later, guys.
Yeah. And I think it's been pointed out by a couple different writers during the JLA comic series, which started in 97. Batman has mentioned it before. I think Superman might have mentioned it, that Diana is one of the best melee fighters of any superhero out there. She will actually, the instincts, combat instincts, I'm trying to say. She knows how to take an opponent out, where Superman is just used to, I'm big. And he even mentions it in this episode where Green Lantern says, why didn't you trust your comrades? He goes, I'm invincible. Why shouldn't I do it? And that's that kind of thinking that always leaves him up to Parasite just sucking his power away, because he doesn't really think about it.
And if you think about where Diana comes from, and when you've seen like the first, when you've seen the Wonder Woman movies, the live action, like my favorite things in the world were seeing her on Themyscira and with, being trained and seeing her origin, where she comes from, and why she's so, prepared in these fights. I mean, Hawkgirl as well. I mean, Hawkgirl, that's where she comes from. It's all about battle. I mean, that's what she lives for. Unlike Wonder Woman doesn't live for it, but she's certainly equipped to handle it. You guys talked about Batman the Animated Series, and this comes from that. And where do you put Superman the Animated Series? I mean, I know this is a whole episode onto itself, but I'm just curious because you have Superman the Animated Series before this show. So what do we glean from that show?
James, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. Well, first of all, Superman the Animated Series broke some barriers in a very different way that Batman could not. And of course, you couldn't have Superman the Animated Series without Batman the Animated Series. You couldn't have Batman Beyond really without Superman. And then, so forth and so forth. The Superman Animated Series, as we all know, very different, especially from the original iteration of Batman the Animated Series. But what I loved about that, and that got lent over to Justice League, is that Superman thinks of himself very, very differently within the superhero community. He sees Batman as an equal, not obviously in power, but in terms of significance. And I think what was really interesting in Secret Society that got really revealed to me through Superman the Animated Series is that he doesn't look at every superhero or superhero team as an equal significance to him. Right? Like, there's a little bit of arrogance Superman has to have to say, listen, I'm your shield. Like, Wonder Woman's the sword. Superman's definitely the shield. And he's not just saying that because, hey, I'm more, I can take it. He's also saying, like, guys, no offense, but you're weaker. Right.
And he says it in this episode. I mean, he actually, says, let me take the hits. And, because I'm me, I can do that. So, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. So interesting.
So one thing that was really, really revealing to me is at the end of the two-parter, right? Where all of a sudden everyone's leaving, Green Lantern says, well, where do we, someone's like, what do we do now? And they were like, well, we just move forward. And everyone walks together, but the only person who hesitates is Superman.
Yeah.
Superman's like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. He actually has that moment to ponder, am I better off by myself? Can I do more good by myself or with this group? I don't know. You know what? I'll walk with them for now.
Was that your takeaway too, James? That's what the subtext of that was, or not even subtext? I mean, that was what was happening there and playing out?
Yeah, I think there is that, like the other James said, there's that ego with Superman that I am the most powerful one here. And we see that play out all the time. How many comics have we read? We saw it in Zack Snyder's Justice League. The entire team struggles to take on Superman because he's just so powerful. But I think there is that. I was watching, because I have a dog named Grimlock, and whenever I leave and I want him to be by himself, so I'll put on either Superman the Animated Series or Justice League the Animated Series or Batman the Animated Series. And I put on Superman the Animated Series, and I came home the other day, and there was the episode, I can't think of the name of it, but Clark's trying to clear the name of this person who's on death row. In Superman the Animated Series, I think it was season 2. I cannot remember the name of the episode right now. But as he's investigating, trying to clear this person's name, he gets this person knows he's on the wrong track. He gets his car blown up, knocked into the ocean. They have an eyewitness, saw the whole thing. So Superman is back on the Kent farm going, I cannot just be Superman. I will go crazy. I need to be Clark Kent, where Batman would be perfectly fine just being Batman. It's those two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. And I think we see that highlighted in the way this episode kind of displays both characters, where Superman is like, gosh, I know I'm the most powerful one here, but he's looking at it differently than Batman. I think to Batman, the Justice League is a necessary tool, where Superman's like, this group might need me. I think it's just that different perspective that both characters have.
Interesting.
Does that make sense? I know James is kind of squinting.
I'm thinking, because it's really, that's a deep statement. That's a really deep statement, because during these two episodes, Batman is reluctant and he's kind of flippant even, but he's still listening to what Green Lantern is saying. Like, he's still like, okay, fine, I'll participate. Okay, fine, I'll do it. So there's a respect he has. There's a value he has, not just for the team, but also for Jon Stewart's leadership. Because if you look at this, who's the leader of the Justice League? I know it kind of like, it depends on what threat they're facing, but like, who's the true leader here? It's not Batman. Is it Superman? No, he's kind of this is the other thing that I was trying to figure out, like, who, because this is the first time everyone's like, okay, well, go by your lead, John. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and when Batman goes with it, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So did this episode establish that Jon Stewart's the leader of the Justice League?
I never felt that. I never felt that Jon Stewart was. I mean, just in everything we've seen in that character, I mean, he's a little too cantankerous for me to be the leader. Like when I come, like, who's the, what was it? What did he say? Who's in the tiara? Who's the princess in the tiara or something? What was that line he said about
from the very first
Wonder Woman?
episode in Secret Origins? Yeah.
So clearly I'm holding a grudge, but if I can let go of that, which I can. But I mean, he just seems like a little too edgy to be the leader. I think Superman in many ways does feel like the leader. I do. I mean, I think they defer to Bruce because of what he brings and the respect that is there. But I do think I do feel like it's Superman. I certainly don't think it's Hawkgirl, and I don't think it's Jean. But as we've discussed with some of the writers and directors, there are certain, like, the heart of the League, the moral center of the League, the soul of the League. And Jean certainly has, Flash, when they... Remember, we were watching an episode not too long ago, James.
Better World,
Flash, right.
They lose their
And
Flash.
There was Flash at the forefront.
Yeah, because he's the heart of the group. He's their heart. And without the heart, they turn into the Justice Lords. Just, I think we discussed, too, a few episodes back, Jean is kind of the conscience.
Right.
A little bit of the group. So they all have their roles. And I go back to, you can talk about when they merged into Super Buffy at the end of season 4, or you can talk about that Star Trek episode of Deep Space Nine, where the different characters show up representing a portion of Benjamin Sisko's psyche. There's that aspect of that in the Justice League, where one's the heart, one's the conscience, one's the soul, one's the attitude of the group. So they blend together, and we see that's the core of this episode, is they're not quite blending like they should.
Sure. No, 100%. Absolutely.
So one thing that my kids brought up while we were watching
let's
this
go.
Is
let's
they
go.
Said they brought this. They said, well then, Dad, who's the leader of the Justice? And they knew it was a rhetorical question. They knew there was no designated leader, which to me is always interesting, because if you look at almost any other animated series that has a team dynamic, right? Or live action, like Power Rangers, we kind of knew was the Red Ranger or what have you. Voltron, it's the Black Lion, but Justice League, even the Avengers, it's either Captain America, Tony Stark, right? Or Iron Man. It's one of those two in the animated series. But there wasn't a clear leadership position marked out for Justice League. Not that I think there ever was, but even the comic books, They do say who's the leader of the Justice League. I'm wondering if this is what the writers and creators wanted. The more I watch Justice League, the more I discover or uncover possible things that blow my mind. Did the creative team know exactly what they were doing by never designating a clear leader? And is that why we're talking about this almost 30 years later?
Yeah. Or there's no delineation necessarily made. Like in the DeMatteis and Giffen run, Jean was pretty much the leader of that group at the time. He was the most senior member, of course, and everyone else were like children because we had Beetle and Booster running around, Fire and Ice, Guy Gardner. So in that particular series, you can kind of point and say Martian Manhunter's the leader. But even back then, it was never clear in the actual Justice League of America comics because the roster kept changing. In Avengers comics, they usually have an election every 12 issues for who's going to be the chairman. Sometimes it's Wasp, sometimes it's Monica Rambeau, sometimes it's Steve Rogers. But they never do that in Justice League, to your point, James. And I think that's, I don't know if the writers were just trying to honor that tradition or if they, like you said, wanted this kind of discussion.
Well, we can certainly ask Stan.
I'll text Bruce Timm right now. Hang on. Bruce.
Go ahead.
What's up, buddy? Who is the leader? Okay, we'll see if he texts back.
Okay. Good one. No, but we can ask Stan. He was in the room where it happened. Yeah. So, and I'm sure those conversations were had. That's, knowing this group, I'm sure those conversations were had. So yeah, we'll get an answer and we'll get back to you, to your children. We'll get back to your children.
It's all about the kids.
Yep. It's all about the kids. Although it's all about the adults and the kids, with this show, because so much of it is generational. One of the beautiful things about going to Comic-Cons is always meeting, the parent who introduced his children to the show. And now the children are meeting me or meeting Phil or Maria or any of us, George. And, that's always just, it just feels so special. I'm just looking at my notes just to see, because I want to make sure we cover so much of all of, and I have to give a special shout out for the music, because in those fight scenes, the music, those cues, and just, right. I mean, really, it's cinematic. That's the word I keep coming back to, because no one can tell me that live action has anything over animation with this particular universe. I mean, it's they should lead the way for live action as far as I'm concerned.
I agree.
I have said that in probably over 100 meetings, all joking aside. Right. Saying if you want to create a great live action story, just look at great animated series.
Right. And hire those people. They could do it. I mean, that's the thing. Exactly. They know that universe better than anybody. I have never seen any live action movie that captures as well. I mean, the first Wonder Woman movie, and maybe there's a Batman, like going way back. No, I shouldn't say, because Christopher Reeve's Superman was like one of my all-time favorite live action films. But what they've done recently, I don't think you can point to anything in like in the very recent past and say that's superior to anything done with animation. I think animation completely, they just are better. They just are better.
That's one of the very first conversations I ever had with Kevin Conroy. The very first time I met him, I said, so what do you think? Why do so many people point to you as their Batman versus Michael Keaton versus Adam West? And he laughed. He says, I get the joy of being animated. I don't have to do all the stunts. He said, that's one of those things where it does make it easier. He said, plus then when you add the music, when you add the words I'm saying, so he knew that he had a very, apex type of situation on his hand. And when you couple that with the music by Shirley Walker for the Batman animated series, and with the writing they had from Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and others, he knew that that's what separated him. So he was very appreciative of those aspects.
And, James, you were talking about, well, James G, you were talking about, being a fan of Kevin's, and Kevin was on my soap opera. Now, I wasn't watching the soap opera at this time because I think I was a little young, but I have since, I've gone on your YouTube, and it was another world. And Kevin obviously had just, was in New York and maybe even still at Juilliard or recently graduated from Juilliard. And you talk about handsome leading man, like Be Still My Heart, because, he comes on and he has that voice.
Yeah.
So it's like he's so beautiful and very young at the time. And then hearing him, it just gave me such a thrill when I discovered that he was on another world. And I remember asking him about it because I was just so startled to see him on my soap opera. And then of course I've seen him in other live action things, but I don't think anything suited him ever like that Batman suit. I mean, I don't think anything could have. He was just born to play that part.
I know people have different opinions of AI. I get it. And especially when it comes to voice acting, and never mind live action acting now, and AI could be horrible or it could do some really crazy stuff. I talked with an AI company and they said, oh, we would never. And I said, imagine this. You could somehow, with Kevin Conroy's partner's permission, or maybe donate funds to Kevin Conroy's favorite charity, whatever it is. But imagine a world where you took Kevin Conroy exactly as you described him, Susan, put him in that classic Batman suit with the white eye lenses and made it exactly like a live action version from the animated series, but it's Kevin Conroy. And I know it's AI, and I'm like, oh, that's crazy. But wow, how exciting is that to even think about? And every time I get into it with someone, we talk about who's the greatest Batman. Of course, I say it's Kevin Conroy, hands down. And then they debate me, and I'm like, it's a pleasant debate. I'm like, no one's done it horribly except for George Clooney. Everyone's had a really great way of doing it, but there's a magic he brought. And this is what I tell my kids: do you look up at that screen and say that's Batman, or do you look up at that screen and say, wow, that actor's doing a great job as that character?
Right.
That's where he transcends.
Yes.
That's the magic he brought. He just wasn't Batman. He defined, I know I'm saying this, a million people have already said this, but he defined it and owned it and became it in a way that no one else ever has.
Well, and it doesn't matter how many people have said it or will say it. It bears repeating because he's so missed and he's so beloved. And why not talk about him all the time and keep him alive that way? That's how, with our memories and with our discussion, we talking about him is, for me, it's a total joy because, everyone misses him so much. And I know the fans do. People come up to me all the time at my table at Comic-Cons and tell me how much they miss him, or how glad they are that they got to meet him, or how sad they are that they thought there would be other opportunities. So they missed that Comic-Con, and damn, I'm not going to be able to see him now, and the sadness that brings up. But so, I'm always here to talk about Kevin Conroy. Always, always, always. And
by the
hearing
way,
him, yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's one part in Secret Society.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Batman moments of all within the DCAU is where he goes into that subway, where he's thinking he's got to save the Flash.
Flash, yeah.
Yeah, and he's met by the Flash, and not only does he instantly recognize it's not the Flash, he takes out Clayface within a second, and then with a batarang takes out Sinestro, one of the most powerful beings in the DCAU, and he does it within like 3 seconds, takes out Clayface and Sinestro. I point to that all the time to demonstrate how Batman in the animated series was indeed a superhuman level threat to anyone, even though he was limited. He was absolutely depicted the right way as being a superhuman level threat type of badass wherever he went.
Right. No, and to me, that the standout for that scene was the yo. Like you overplayed it. I mean, because that's comedy chops like that. To be given a line like that, I always lamented that Wonder Woman didn't have funnier line. Like I wanted to have some funny to play, and I so appreciate it when any of us get to say something like that, because he delivered it so perfectly. It made me laugh out loud. It truly did. And it was just like, I love Stan Berkowitz for writing the line, and I love how Kevin delivered it. It was perfect.
Yeah. Much like this episode, Secret Society, I'm sure people who've listened to this podcast are saying, hold on, he said this other one was his top 5. Secret Society, easily top 5s of the episodes in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. In my opinion, I would rate it a 10 out of 10 because of the voice cast, the storytelling, the fights we get to see. Everyone likes to see superheroes and supervillains go at it. And you've got a huge arena like Gotham Stadium to do it. So asking both of you, where would you place, would this episode fall in your top 5 total, top 10? We'll start with Susan.
I think, there are too many. There are too many. So I'd say top 10 because I don't want to, but it was definitely top 10. I mean, I loved it and I thought it delivered and it gave us the whole cast, which I said earlier, it just, didn't happen all the time. So when it does, you just feel like this is going to be a good ride. And it's a great ride. I thought it was also interesting that it ends somewhat ambiguously.
Yeah.
It doesn't get resolved in this like neat little package of like, oh, good won over evil. The setup is always good and evil, right? Or it's weak versus strong. It's always that dichotomy. And what I love about our writers is they know that sometimes it's not so simple, that things don't always get resolved with a bow on top of them. But no, to answer your question, sorry, definitely top 10. Definitely.
James Gavsie?
Definitely top 5. Sorry, Susan. And I'll tell you why. Because, and again, I agree actually with everything Susan says. The reason why this is a top 5 to me is because it's not just one of the greatest two-parters or episodes of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, within that whole universe, but it's also one of the best Justice League stories told, right? So it's not, whether it was, when I look at the animated form, never mind live action and limited form, whatever that was, and comic books, I'm like, no, I can point to Secret Society, in my opinion, as one of my favorite Justice League stories.
Right.
Right. If we were to read this in a comic book form, we'd be like, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And the fact that we got the gift of this in an animated form,
yeah,
with all the amazing talent associated with it, it's absolutely incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. And that's the word, right, that I keep using is gift. So, I think you're absolutely right. I'm still not going to give you top 5 because I think there are some other, I don't want to it might be 6. I'm just saying.
Okay. I'll accept 6 as long as it's in the upper part of the lower 10.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, good. That covers, I think, all the aspects we wanted to talk about. Before we let you go, James Gavsie, we mentioned the 1,000 different projects. If you could give us your top 10 projects that you're working on right now. We know the Who Would Win podcast is something that everyone should be listening to, especially if you like what we do here on Justice League Revisited. But what all have you been working on? What's coming out? What can people watch for you to be in?
And how can people find you if they want to follow you? All of that, like just, on social media, things like that.
I've had a couple of stalkers, so I'm not going to provide too much information of how people can follow me. It's, that's a story for later. But for right now, you can find me at James Gavsie on Twitter/X, at James Gavsie on Instagram and Facebook. The Who Would Win podcast is absolutely amazing. We debate, it's a very serious political debate where we debate who would win between like Harry Potter and Luke Skywalker. Wonder Woman versus Captain Marvel. It's Wonder Woman, by the way. And, all these kind of fun debates. And it's always a lot of fun. We have a huge social media community that supports us, and we're so thankful for them. The only thing I can talk about that I'm working on is finally, my live action superhero short film called Alpha Initiative Zero, based on the characters from the Creative Extreme comic book company, is coming out very, very soon. This is a passion project. I'm associated with this great group of creators, directors, actors, and stunt coordinators. And you'll recognize the work from John Wick, Mortal Kombat 2, Extraction. And we put it out there. It is action heavy. It's going to be insane. I can't wait for the reaction. Look for that probably early January.
Fantastic. Wow. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Very, very busy. That's why we're appreciative of his time coming on.
Yes, very much so.
Justice League Revisited podcast. James Gavsie, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and we will do it again very, very soon.
Thank you so much. The honor is mine. And thank you to Susan and all of the great people associated with Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. One of the greatest things that you were talking about, this is a great gift. And now I get to share it with my family. And there's nothing better than doing that and sitting on the couch and then talking about the episode after, because my kids have so many questions and want to keep talking about it. So thank you for giving me not just joy for myself, but this wonderful family time watching just one of the most amazing things ever.
Thank you so much. And please tell your family I say hello. Okay. Thank you.
Hell yes.
Thanks. Thanks, James.
There he goes. Such a fun conversation with someone like him, because you can he oozes fan. You know he's a fan of the series, the genre, all of it.
Well, let's just say it. He's a super fan. He's true. A super fan. And he's just a delightful guy. I feel like I've known him for a very long time. He's just been in and around my orbit for such a long time. And I've always thought he was a good guy. So how fun was that? And I always appreciate when you have somebody else geeky to talk to, because I feel like I alone cannot bring the geek enough for you. So it's always nice when there's somebody else and you can get all lit up and get all joyful talking about, your geekdom.
And in an episode like this, anytime I get to throw in a Star Trek or a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reference, that was
great.
I've
noticed.
You got to throw in your Another World reference, though, and I'm curious.
I know I did.
Was Kevin paired with Amanda Corey, who was his love interest at the time? Because that was before Amanda Corey.
Yeah, no, it's before Amanda and Sam.
Oh, okay.
So it's long before that. So it was in the 70s. So it's before my time not that I wasn't around. But I wasn't. His name was Jerry.
Felicia and everyone. No,
yeah, pre-Felicia. I think the character was probably still there with Felicia, but not Kevin. He didn't play it for very long.
Okay.
In fact, somebody else took over the role, and I didn't like the recast at all. It was kind of not an amazing character, but he brought so much to it. He was paired with an actress with the character named Blaine. I don't know if you remember Blaine.
She was never on when I watched, but I know other characters have referenced her.
Yeah, so she was a great character, and he played a character named Jerry. And we'll save it for the soap opera.
We'll do it for the soap opera. Yeah, right.
Because I can just go on and on and on and on. I can.
Yes, no, and Another World was one of the 2 soap operas that I followed, so I could probably hold my own a little bit once we got into the early 90s episodes.
Love it.
But this has been fantastic. Secret Society, again, such a great episode. I'm so glad to revisit it, if I can borrow a word that you like to sometimes use.
Well, it's our brand. I try to use it as much as I can, right? That's how you get people remembering us.
That's right. That and our witty repartee. That's what we're.
And our marketing team told me, "Oh wait, we don't have a marketing team."
That's right. Yeah. Well,
shoot.
That's okay. We'll get one for Unlimited. I think the budget went up. The budget went up with the WB, so we'll get a bigger budget too, right?
Oh, if it only worked that way.
But for those of us who want to know where you are, I know you're. I know you're traveling. It's amazing the reception you got on this tramp steamer. She's on the Atlantic Ocean, folks, and she's making her way up the coast.
Well, which is why we did the sound test earlier, because I wanted to make sure that you couldn't hear the ocean in the ocean in the background. But he's kidding. He's kidding. We jest on this show. So people can reach me at Susan Eisenberg 1. I added to my repertoire. I've been doing a lot more posting on Blue Sky. That just seemed like a really great place and friendly place to land these days. I will still be posting on Twitter for art for this podcast. And I still am on Threads and Instagram, Susan Eisenberg 1. And then Susan Eisenberg Voice is my website, and you can tune in there if you want to see where I'll be going. There's nothing there right now, but stay tuned within the next few weeks, because there'll be some things to add for my Comic-Cons.
Okay, fantastic. And for me, it's at Geek to Me Radio across all social media, Threads, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are the 4 that I'm most active on. Those of you who might know, we've got this as a Justice League handle on Twitter. It's because I created it way back as just a fan account for Justice League. It's at OG Justice League. We usually post the episodes there where you can keep track of updates, who we're having on when we have guests to announce and things like that. So you can follow us there on Twitter for this particular account. And then follow me on YouTube at Geek to Me Radio on YouTube. We do a live broadcast every Sunday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. We're rapidly approaching our 450th episode. I've been doing this since 2016 without a break.
Cow.
So a brand new show has come out each week since I first launched the show. I've never missed a week. So I'm very proud of that. So if you would just follow me on YouTube at Geek to Me Radio, hit the subscribe button. We just broke 4,000 subscribers. So I know I'm still a very small channel, but I'd love to grow bigger and get more attention. So follow me there and follow us on the podcast, whatever platform you're listening to this show right now on. Hit the subscribe button so that way you'll never miss an episode of Justice League Revisited, as we're in the back half of season 2 now, where it's hard to believe.
I know. I mean, and just leave a review if you can. I know it takes time and people are busy, but it really helps us to get a sense of how we're doing and what your feelings are for the show. So please, if you have an extra moment or two, subscribe and leave a review for us. Okay.
That's
all right.
Right.
So I think that's it. That's another one in the can for us, right?
Oh, it's in the can.
And it's in the can. So for all of you listening, thank you for joining us. We so appreciate it, and stay tuned because the conversation continues.